Alex, you're an old school guy.
Yes.
Is that true that back in the days, in the 70s, 80s, you were working out for 3, 4, 5 hours a day? Or is it just a myth?
Serge Nubret told me to work out like that, and I thought, I just can't do it. He did work out like that.
4 hours?
Yes, but that's all he did. So he'd wake up in the morning, he'd eat. He would train maybe 2, 3 hours. Then he would sleep and eat in his gym upstairs. He'd wake up, then he'd train another 2 hours. So he did do chest for like an hour, or just back for an hour, straight. Light weights, but still the volume of work was just incredible.
How did you
Well, when you're
recover?
eating and sleeping, that's all you do though. So imagine if you just worked out in the morning, then you slept for 2, 3 hours, then you ate, then you worked out again, then you'd sleep again, then you sleep at night another 8 hours. He had the ability to just like, right now, you put him in a corner, he would fall asleep like within minutes. And my friends are like, how's this possible? This guy's not human. Like, we were just talking 2 seconds ago, and then I gotta go, you sleep now. And he'd close his eyes, and he'd start snoring. So either he's putting on an act, but no, he was really sleeping. So my friend was like, he's got to be taking something. How can you possibly sleep? What is he, like a horse? He can like sleep standing up. Then he'd wake up, like fresh, and start working out again. He was a machine. It was very unusual. And the opposite of that was Mike Mentzer. Mike Mentzer would come to our gym in Rome also. I think he came twice. And he was opposite. I'd ask him questions. I'd tell him, yeah, Serge Nubret was here last month, and I'd tell him and he would just shake his head. And I'd say, well, how much protein do you eat? Because Serge was eating 5 kilos of steak, red meat a day.
5 kilos?
Kilos.
Not pounds.
Not pounds. That's what, 11 pounds? He did admit that 5 kilos may be a little too much for him. So I think he reduced it like
Just
4.
a little too much.
4 kilos is like 8, 9 pounds. So it was either horse meat or beef.
Can you imagine his stomach?
Who?
Serge
Nubret was this big. He's half the size of yours and mine. It's just like a girl's waist. It was so small.
It was a machine.
It was just a freak of nature, yeah. I think maybe he didn't have any fiber with it. So not having the fiber, you don't bloat as much. It just kind of goes through you. Excuse me. But Mentzer was opposite. He would say, nutrition's not important. Like, what do you mean it's not important? Like, it's not important. The FDA says you should eat, 60 grams of protein a day. That's what the FDA recommends. So let's eat like, 10 grams more, 70 grams. Like 70 grams is like nothing. Like that's enough. Your water's 75, your muscle's 75% water. Why don't you just like start, drinking water? I said, well, it's a little different. Protein and water, you can't really compare that. So we'd have like those little discussions. But I was 16, so I'm not gonna, really confront my idol. I mean, I'm talking to Mike Mentzer, so I had this aura of the champion. So when I was talking to Nubret or Mike Mentzer, I was still in awe of them. I could never contradict more than a certain point, because for me, they were just these gods that I looked up to.
But that's impossible for Mike eating like 60, 70 grams.
That's exactly what he was doing.
Really?
Yeah, because he was staying at a friend's house. Like, what did he eat? We're like milking him for information. I don't know what's going on with my voice, I'm sorry. But he'd wake up in the morning, he said, well, what did he eat this morning? I said, he had a cappuccino, and he had a pastry and this bran muffin he wanted. Okay, that's what? 6 grams of protein from the cappuccino, because it's a glass of milk, and how much protein's in a muffin, and another 10. Okay, so he ate 12 grams of protein. That's what he ate. Then we worked out. He wanted rice. He had a little bit of the pasta that my wife made. He had a little bit of meat, so we're talking another like 20, 30 grams. So by the end of the day, he ate 70 grams of protein. And he was there for several weeks, and he did a posing exhibition at the Mr. Italy.
How is this possible?
And he looked pretty good. He was huge.
How is this possible?
I don't know. Bodybuilding is, as much as I know after 40, years in the sport, a lot of it's just how your body responds,
The genetics.
I do think that if Mike Mentzer actually did eat more protein and had more protein supplements like we have now, like the isolate whey and the amino acids, without adding the calories, I think he would have, with his genetic potential, he would have been a lot bigger. I really believe that, because he was almost starving himself because he was training hard, So I think under those conditions, his body would have absorbed and could have utilized more protein, I think.
So he had like 3 meals a day?
Yeah, he ate. He was like a normal person. And this was, I think, July, August, and the Olympia that year was 1980, was in September. So he was almost, pre-Olympia.
That's crazy.
I know, right? And then you get Serge Nubret, which is the opposite of the spectrum. To each his own. You got to figure out your own body. And we can have all these scientific theories, which are great, but, Serge trains so light, like your little kid could lift the same weights. But it's just constant, just bringing the blood and the muscle, just keeping it there for a long, long time. And just he had a lot of weak parts, but his chest and shoulders were just huge and ripped. The back was just so thick, it just looked like another set of pecs.
Like a turtle.
Like a turtle. It was just crazy.
But back in the day, the guys were much smaller, much lighter. The whole physique looked like they are big.
Yeah.
But comparing to normal people, they were not that big. The Arnold was kind of big because he was tall.
He was the biggest. Him and Farina were the biggest for a long time.
Farina, the biggest, I believe.
The difference in the old school guys was they looked amazing on stage. Whereas now, the guys look great in the gym. Then they get on stage, it's like, I don't see this big difference. Whereas back in the day, they look good in the gym. They look big. But once they were on stage, they perfected their poses and their angles so much, and they knew how to peak back then more, that there was a night and day difference between them throughout the year and on the Olympia stage. That's the big difference. Now, they're kind of always freaky, so I don't see a big difference. I can't say, I can't wait to see this guy on stage. He's going to look so much better. I kind of look better on Instagram in the gym, really.
So you like the golden age more than the modern era, right?
I know I sound ancient saying that. I like it now too. It's just you have to accept the evolution of something, and it can't always be the 70s. Like it can't always be now 2022. So things need to evolve. It's different, different people in the sport. It was more fun back then, that's for sure.
If you like this short clip, you are more than welcome to watch the full episode on my other YouTube channel called Apollo the Original.